The EU is falling apart into three elements: France and Germany, the rest of the Eurozone, and then the non-Eurozone, centered around a special position of the United Kingdom. And the special position of the United Kingdom needs looking at. Merkel and Sarkozy have done a deal with Cameron. Everybody knows that, and it has to be said openly. According to the deal, there needs to be a treaty change for the Stability Pact. Cameron says yes, okay, although the House of Commons doesn't want it, but in return Cameron gets the budget he wants. And Sarkozy and Merkel have agreed. That's the reality of Europe. That's not only nothing to do with the community spirit, it's actually tearing the European Union apart. In the long run, it will tear the European Union apart. And there are those who want that. They applaud. Oh, there they are, over there. If you don't want those people over there to call the shots in Europe in the future, then you have to take Europe in another direction. I'll try to continue as best I can, despite the interruptions, as Mr. Schulz can participate. Yes, I won't be long, Mr. President. Please, I don't have very much speaking time, but I just have one more point to make.
Ja. Ja. Wiederhol das mal, was
I don't know if people heard that. A nation, an empire, a Führer. That's what that man over there said. Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer were his exact words.
President, well, time is over. Please finish your last remarks. Last remarks.
Herr Präsident.
Yeah. Yeah.
Herr Präsident.
Mr. President, I won't be long. When a man like that traipses through this chamber chanting Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer, there were people in Germany who said that, and I fight that spirit in everything I do, but I'm not sure he does.
President, I cannot accept what you have just said, sir. We are in a democracy. This is a democratic era, and I would ask you to apologise. I would ask you to make an official apology. Otherwise, we are going to lodge a complaint. You know, there are people who have said less than that, and I'm sorry, this is not acceptable.
Thank you.
No. C'est tout juste.
You know, I'm always surprised you didn't add and will add concentration camps to the equation. Settle the problem that way.
Dear colleagues, we must go ahead. I will moment. I will take it into account. I will take it into account. I will read you. I will take it into account. The President shall call to order any member who disrupts the smooth conduct of the proceedings or whose conduct fails to comply with the relevant provisions of Rule 9. So I will ask you, colleague, to apologise to the Chamber.
The views expressed by Herr Schulz meet the case. He is an undemocratic fascist.
Colleagues, we expected something quite different because we wouldn't like our discussion to be disturbed in such a way. So I will call you, colleague, to the meeting with me, and we must take decision for the next steps. Thank you. Sorry. So it is impossible to keep our discussion in such an atmosphere. Well, is it possible? Yeah. Colleague, as you see, the chamber is protesting very deeply against your behavior. And can I give you? It is article number 152, point number 3. I will read it. I will read it in my mother tongue. W przypadku zakłócania porządku lub kolejnego naruszenia.
In the case of business being disrupted by a member, the member can be deprived of the floor and removed from the chamber. Should the disturbance continue, if a further offence is committed, the offender may be denied the right to speak and be excluded from the chamber. The Secretary-General shall without delay see to it that disciplinary measures are carried out with the assistance of the ushers and, if necessary, of Parliament's security service. As you know, most of the members in the chamber cannot accept your behaviour. I would therefore ask you to leave the chamber at this point.
Koleżanki i koledzy.
Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen.
You can discuss and you can express your opinion, but not to disturb each other.
During the debate on the European Council, an incident occurred. I don't want to elaborate on that incident because I was the target of an insult. Now, there are various levels on which I can't be insulted and which I don't feel as an insult, because you really have to actually have a certain degree of passion to your insult for it to actually affect me. But I would like to express my thanks for the innumerable signs of solidarity that I have received. I'd like to thank colleagues from all political groups. That is a sign of our shared democratic and European values, because the vast majority of members of this House share them, and thank you very much for that.
The incident referred to was a protest by Mr. Bloom in which he made wartime allusions of Mr. Schulz. And the President said this was unacceptable and invited Mr. Bloom to apologise. Mr. Bloom did not apologise then, and I call on him now to do so. And if he does not do so, he must leave the chamber. Mr. Bloom.
Yet again, there is one rule for Herr Schulz and one rule for everybody else. This is a disgrace. I have been re-elected to vote in this chamber by the people of Yorkshire, your own constituency I might add, with a democratic mandate which you do not enjoy, Mr. President, yourself, because you switched parties and they voted for the Conservatives. I have no intention of apologising. I have no intention of leaving this chamber. You must have me escorted out, sir.
First of all, Mr. Bloom, I was expelled by the Conservative Party for making a stand on a point of principle closely related to the issues you raised this morning. Secondly, you have not apologised for language which is wholly inappropriate to the European Parliament, and I ask you to leave. Mr. Bloom, no, I'm not taking any points of order on this. No. If I have a proposal to make. I can ask the security services to remove Mr. Bloom, but I intend to put it to the vote. Is it the wish of the House that Mr. Bloom should leave? Those in favour, please raise your hands. Thank you. Those who wish Mr. Bloom to stay, please raise your hands. Those abstaining. Now, Mr. Bloom. I will accept one statement from Mr. Farage, the group leader of this group.
Mr. President, the reason for the anger and the noise is because we're not actually applying the rules of this place evenly. Mr. Schulz has repeatedly thrown insults, not just at me, but at many members of this House.
Einem deutschen Gymnasium gelernt, dass im Reichstag der Weimarer Republik es eine Strategie gab, den politischen Gegner niederzuschreien, und zwar chorweise. Die Fraktion, die das dort eingeführt hat, war die Fraktion von Adolf Hitler. Heute habe ich mich daran erinnert gefühlt. Vielen Dank.
Shouting down representatives of Parliament, Commission and Council during the signing ceremony was intolerable and must not be tolerated. It brings the worst of the football stadium into Europe's highest chamber and recalls the actions of the communists in the Russian Diet and the National Socialists in the German Reichstag. My formal request, Madam President, is this. My group demands that in future the Presidency use the powers granted to it under our rules of procedure to evict from the chamber members behaving in that fashion.
Ne dramatisez pas trop. S'il y a 50 fous dans une salle, il y en a 700 qui sont contre, et ne faites pas une histoire d'État parce qu'il y a 50 débiles mentaux qui ont dérangé ce qui s'est passé tout à l'heure. Calmons-nous, calmons-nous, et Graham, ne demandons pas la sortie physique. Je crois qu'un Parlement libre est un Parlement qui supporte des fous, même s'ils sont des
He said that the Eurosceptics, the no voters, opened the door to fascism. We've had Danny Cohn-Bendit calling us mentally ill. Can we, Mr. President, if the rules are that something is deemed to be an insult, a member is asked to leave, that's fair enough. But the anger, and I share that anger, is these rules are not applied evenly. Mr. Schulz regularly calls other people fascists, and when he's called one, the member in question is asked to leave. That isn't right, that isn't fair.
Mr. Farage, I don't want to prolong this, but can I just make the observation that this is incorrect. What Mr. Bloom said in two interventions, one from the floor and one from his place, both were heard by many people, and both were unacceptable in parliamentary terms. The House wants Mr. Bloom to leave. That's its expression. If he does not do so, people will infer from that his attitude towards the democratic process. Mr. Bloom, I'm going to invoke Rule 152. If you will not leave, I'll have you removed. I've discussed this with the President, and I have his support for this. Right. Thank you. Mr. Dole, you wanted to intervene.
Monsieur le Président.
President, if you would allow, what I said this morning, it's unacceptable the way in which Mr. Bloom has behaved. Secondly, We're in a democratic parliament. We decided democratically, Mr. Bloom, that you should leave the chamber. Please do have the honor that the request of Parliament be obliged, and please leave the chamber.
Under Rule 1524, I regret that this incident is obstructing the good business of the House. I therefore intend to suspend the sitting for 5 minutes. The sitting is suspended for 5 minutes.